this was just, several weeks into the mission, and mission field. And my companion was very much letter of the law, very much rule oriented. Obedience brings happiness. Obedience brings baptisms, was kind of his thing. And one day we were coming home from a dinner appointment, and I had forgot my glasses. And it was dark, and I couldn't see real well, so I had to wear my glasses at night, and I had forgotten them. So I was like, well, let's take the more lighted way back home, which meant a few minutes longer. And it was about 10 minutes, probably 9:30. So we had to be in the apartment by 9:30, and we wanted to be in the apartment by 9:30. So we were rushing home. And we're biking home, and we turn off down a street that we were on frequently, and we see this lump almost in the sidewalk as we're going, and we were curious to know what it was, and so we stop, and here's this woman in high heels, and she's dragging this supposedly drunk guy home, and he's probably 250 pounds, and she's a skinny little thing with high heels. And I stop my companion, we're like, hey, we probably should help these people. She's trying to drag him home, and he's a large guy, and he's kind of like in and out of consciousness because he was pretty drunk. And he decided he wanted to call the AAPs and make sure, or call his own leaders and make sure that we could do that. And I was like, don't call it. These people need help right now, and the leaders it's almost 9:30, and they don't need to be notified of this. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make a big difference. Anyway, he calls them. And the response from the zone leaders is like, no duh, you should help people. Like, that is the point of the mission, to help people. So, I mean, he was just trying to obey the rules, which is totally fine. I'm okay with that. I would advocate that, obviously. But we end up helping them, and a bunch of people come down the steps, and it's pretty late, it's dark, right? And we each have an arm and a leg, and we're carrying them along, and we eventually get him home, and we started talking to some of the people, and they're like, oh, you're missionaries, blah, 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 and we just started discussing, and it was already past 9:30 at this point, right? It was probably 9:40, 9:45. And my companion had forgotten about the time. We just had let that part of the night go, just because we wanted to help and meet new people and talk to them. And then we got home, and we talked about it afterward, and we're like, well, look at it two different ways. You can do the letter of the law as best you can, and you can also have the spirit of the law with you as a missionary. And it's up to you to decide whether you want to be one, both, or the other. And my advice is you need to be both. You need to follow the Spirit. The Spirit will never tell you to break the rules, but the Spirit will also tell you when you need to help someone, when you need to break a rule in order to help someone. And I think that I learned that later on in my mission. Obviously, consequences of breaking rules late at night are you can get into trouble, or you could find interesting people on the streets that don't like you, that might want to hurt you, or gangs. There's lots of gangs in my mission. There was plenty of them. Cholos in Spanish, but and so obviously, if you're just ignoring the rules, bad things can happen. But I think so long as you have the right motive, a lot of times you can definitely help people that you wouldn't otherwise be able to help, because it is that time of night, and those people come out at night that are different than during the day. So that was one of the interesting stories, and I think that was one that just stuck with me, because that's where I really first learned, firsthand, just the decision-making process between obeying the White Handbook or not, really. And you have two choices, and you have to make the right one. And that requires just being in tune with the Spirit and understanding people's needs.